Hey, you guys.
Hi.
So we were just talking. This is actually something that I've wanted to talk about for a couple of weeks, and we keep forgetting because there's other more pressing things. But
But this is a big one. It's important.
This is a big one, and something that I've just recently discovered. But then as we've been talking, you've kind of had your own experience with it. They're different, right?
Right.
And this is about really being in the body and then understanding how much energy and like emotion your body holds.
Oh, yes.
And then how to move it through.
Right.
So I started to go see this. I just had an intuition that I was supposed to get more assistance and kind of loving my body, helping my body, right? I've been on this journey for a long time, but it was time for me to invest in like having someone assist. It's not massage. I mean, she is a myofascial, she uses myofascial technique.
Yeah.
And that's something that practitioners use for pain release, right? Like if you're in physical pain and you have a blockage or whatever. But I've also seen that it's helpful for cellulite and just movement of the lymph system.
Right.
Which is really what I was going for. Is like, I know my lymph system is sluggish.
So sluggish, yeah.
And so I wanted assistance with that. Okay, so that was my intention when I went.
Right.
And I've been seeing her for, since August.
Yeah.
Right? So almost a year.
Yeah, I remember you.
And it started
telling
off
about
really
it.
frequently where I was seeing her every week, and then I went to monthly. And so my experience, what I learned through this process, which I didn't realize I needed to learn.
Yeah.
But
which is funny because you go in for one thing and you end up coming out with such a beautiful other experience.
Different learning lesson altogether.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, as you take those leaps of faith, that's what they're there. It's okay, like I'm feeling this intuition. I need to go see this person. I'm thinking it's going to be this, but oh wow, okay, it's this healing journey.
Yeah.
But
so fun.
So the technique itself is very gentle. I mean, it's like she's like, okay, where do you feel pain? She looks at my body. And sometimes I do have some aches and pains, but sometimes she can just look at me and be like, let's work on your shoulders, or let's work on your hips, or
which you didn't even know you had pain there.
Right, exactly.
But she
like
can kind
I'm
of
sensing
see it.
that we need to work on your hips. Hips are a big one for me because I sit like this a lot, like sideways. But anyway, so as we're going through this process, a lot of just like holding.
Yeah, that, I mean, it doesn't even feel like anything.
No, it doesn't even feel like anything. But I can feel my body melting as she does it.
Amazing.
It's so weird.
So cool.
So that alone is just cool.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really surprised me through this is that I feel emotions. So she will, like one day she was working, I've had 2 C-sections. So she's like, your body holds a lot of fear. It holds the memory of trauma.
Right.
And when you experience a trauma, your body holds on and it's like, oh my God, it's not safe. Like, and it tenses up, right? But the thing is it holds that memory.
And it can't move. It can't move through your body because we don't allow it to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't let the trauma move through, let the pain move through.
Right.
So she started working around my C-section area. And she's always so encouraging. She was like, what do you feel? And I felt an emotion. It was like, I feel scared.
Oh, weird.
And she's like, okay, just feel into the fear.
Wow.
And it's like tears burst out of my eyes. And I don't even realize that I'm processing. There's no thought attached to it.
Yeah, it's just like allowing it to just
the raw emotion coming out.
Wow. How does that feel? Is it weird? Like you can't even explain it.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, it's actually feeling a feeling without any story around it.
Wow.
Which is foreign.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just feeling fear and not having any reason for why you're feeling fear?
I don't know if I've ever had that.
Now, sometimes when she does it, she'll say, feel into it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a vision from like when I'm a child and I've had a fear or something like that. But here's the other piece. So not only is that crazy, because she'll touch a place and I'll feel an emotion. Yeah. And she says, just tell yourself it's safe to feel this. You're okay now. Just feel it. Feel into it. So it's like, okay, I release that. But there are other times where like in order to release something, I literally have to vigorously move my body.
Oh yeah.
So like I had a little thing in my shoulder, and she's like, okay, let's just kind of start moving this. And she's like, okay, so I want you to start feeling into it. Then she starts moving it faster to the point where like I'm moving it myself. She just lets go, and I just have to shake it out. Like when you're paying attention to it and when you're feeling it, it's like shaking. I can't stop it. Like it's like when something hurts and you're like, and that's the natural reaction.
Right.
That's what it feels like, except I'm releasing an energy from my body, an energy that's been pent up, that's holding my muscles hostage, that's holding my body hostage.
Right.
And we're never taught to do this with emotions. We're never taught to actually have a physical reaction with emotion. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So there are times when I'll have an intense experience with her where it's like, it can be very intense, and she'll be like, you might need to like scream. You might need to like jiggle or move. Yeah. And I was like, not me.
I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
Like that feels
You're thinking
awkward.
of somebody else, not me.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But sure enough, I had an intense appointment where I had a lot of fear coming up, a lot of fear, and a lot of movement that I had to just get out. And she said that might persist. And I was out in my hot tub, and I literally could not stop myself from just like running as hard as I could in place and just getting it out. And it was such a release to allow
now when you're
permission.
in that moment when you're feeling that, because when I had that feeling, it is so uncomfortable.
It's very.
Is that how it is?
It's like I've got to get this out.
Yeah,
right? It's like it's in your body. You've got to get it out. You can't not move. Yeah. You can't not move. Right. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or like you're compelled.
Yes.
Compelled to
like
get
it's
it
almost
out.
like
it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, and because that was like me the other night, and I was sitting there and I had this kind of overwhelming emotion of anger. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to breathe through it, and I'm like, okay, this isn't helping. And I'm like, and I was laying in bed at this point, like I was ready to go to bed, but it, like this anger came up, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable, what I do. But I couldn't go to sleep. Like I had to feel it.
I was like,
what do I do with this? What do I do with this? And I was like trying to breathe, and I was like, okay, that's not helping. So I go into my closet and close the door because my husband's next to me sleeping. And I'm like, and then my kids are sleeping. So I'm like, where am I supposed to go with this? And I want to scream and yell and just whatever, you know? And I'm standing there and I'm just like, I'm like punching the air. I'm like shaking my legs. And I'm like, like that, like kind of like I couldn't scream, but I was just like, you know, like that. And then like cursing and, you know, just like getting it out. And then I actually did some push-ups because I was like, I couldn't get it out of my body. Like I just couldn't move through. And I'm like, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, is this going to end? Is this going to end? It's so uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. Oh. You do. That's the exact feeling of
crazy.
Just being overwhelmed with a sensation that you must move. And you must move something through your body. And I think more and more of us are going to be feeling that. I think that's kind of the process of being human. And so many of us have been out of our bodies for so long, detached.
Right.
And now we're being invited to be more in touch. With
There's the dog
our
again.
bodies. This is the first time she's shown up today.
That's true,
though.
yeah.
More in touch with our bodies. I mean, I've been so detached from my body for so long.
Me too. Oh my goodness.
That I literally didn't even realize I had all these emotions in there.
I know.
That I had stuffed down and that were stuck in my body.
Right.
And so,
just
the whole process of experiencing that, experiencing the need for movement, just as a way to get through the emotion. And then the lack of pain that I didn't even kind of realize how much pain I was in. It was like my shoulders were tense, and I had a hip
But you
thing.
just felt such release afterward that you were just like, wow, I had no idea that was even there, and I feel so much lighter.
Exactly.
Wow.
Just a lightness and a joy of just letting it move through and being like, oh wow, body,
if you just
have
allow
done
it,
so much for me, and held on to so much for fear. And
isn't it amazing our bodies, how like I take it for granted so much. I had no idea really how much our bodies do for us.
Yeah.
And that when we sit in our bodies and we're in our bodies now, we can kind of see that and feel it and experience it. And then however uncomfortable it is, because it's very uncomfortable when that, at least for me, when that anger energy came through me.
When all of those energies come through.
Oh, it is so intense. It's so amazing afterward because you're finally like, okay, it's through me.
Yeah, exactly.
I can
like
finally
this release.
It is such a release. And then you're like, okay, that was a little scary. That was a little intense, but it was so needed. Mm-hmm. And then you allow it to just be what it is, because that's really all it needs. It just needs to be what it is, because we've never allowed ourselves to do that.
To feel it completely.
Mm-hmm. And then once you feel it completely, it's really gone.
Yeah, it is.
And then, like, if something else comes up again that angers you, or that's a fear or whatever, you can allow it to move through you, because you know now it's just an energy that needs to be moved, and it's okay. And yes, it feels very uncomfortable and it doesn't feel great, but it just needs to be moved through, and it'll...
Yeah, and I think, like, when you're healing old wounds, mm-hmm. it can be more intense. Like, I was healing a lot of old wounds from childhood and things I wasn't even aware.
Right.
You know, I was holding
that
on
you hold on to.
But, and that's really intense. That's like, oh my God, I got to feel all this right now.
Yeah.
When you're in the moment, a lot of times you can breathe it through.
Yeah.
But there are times when it'll still sneak up on you, mm-hmm. and like...
You're just like, what? Yeah. Oh gosh, I have to feel this now. I don't want to feel this now. I don't want to feel this now. And then you're like, okay, just let it. And then if you just let it go, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like it's ever going to end. That's for me. Like when I was feeling that, when I was in my closet and just like, oh my gosh, is this going to end? Is this going to end? Oh gosh, it's so uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, just breathe it through, and just allowing myself to be here with myself and allowing it to just happen. Yeah. Instead of trying to escape out of it and think about it, or distract myself, or whatever we usually do.
Make up that you can kind of like the story and be like, this is the reason why I'm mad. It's just kind of like, no,
I have to feel this right now.
This requires physical movement by me to move through it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's really important. Yeah. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because it was such a new experience for me. Mm-hmm. Yes. To be in my body, to feel these things unprovoked by anything outside of me except just the touch. Mm-hmm. And then how it kind of the sensation of it. Yes. Which is just kind of overwhelming and like almost like a restless leg. Like if anybody have you ever had restless leg?
Oh yes.
Yeah, so it's like the restless
But it's like
leg.
All over your body.
Yes, exactly.
So weird.
So you just have to move it out.
Yeah.
And so I would say to anyone who's like, wait, what? If you've experienced that before, it's good.
Yeah.
Because
it's on purpose, and it's
a healing tool.
Yeah. I'm just not able to verbalize it, because I'm like, ugh. But yeah, it's a needed thing. It's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And when you just allow yourself to be in your body and feel it, it's not that bad.
No.
And it's,
it
doesn't last that long, and we put so much emphasis around it, like, I don't want to feel, and that's what we've done our whole lives, is distract ourselves with TV, food, alcohol, anything, right? Mm-hmm. To numb us from it, to not feel it. And I always thought like, feeling emotion like crying or yelling or screaming or whatever, that's one thing. This is on such a, I guess I want to say cellular level. I don't even know if that, but it's just, it's such a different way to express those emotions.
Yeah.
Because I've expressed anger before, and I'm just thinking like even last summer when I was kind of like awakening to all this stuff, and that anger then feels much different than now.
Yeah.
And just the way it feels in my body, and allowing myself to feel it and let it move through me instead of just expressing it like screaming and yelling. That's important too, but this is just on like a cellular level where it's all over your body, and you feel it almost all over your body.
It's so true. It feels very raw to me.
Yes.
Because it is unattached to a story, and so it's not intermingled with other justifications.
Right.
Or
because when you start doing that, then you kind of get away from it, and it becomes kind of like a regular old anger or fear or whatever. This is just the raw, unfiltered emotion that has
energy.
been wanting
it's
to,
total energy, but it's attached also
to those emotions.
An awareness of like, this is fear.
Yes.
Or this is anger.
Right. And just allowing it to just be, because that's always what it's wanted to do.
Yeah.
Is just be, is just to feel it and move through you. And since it's so, it takes a little while for it to move through, and that's why you have to kind of move your body, is because it's very dense.
Yeah.
It's so heavy that it takes,
heavy.
if you ever look at any energy, and I'm not a scientist by any means, but like if you've looked at energy on like, I don't know, like not on a microscope, but however they measure energy, like when you look at anger, the frequency, it's very slow. And like, joy and happiness, it's very high, and it just, the vibrations, right, are very high, and they don't usually stick with you, but like those dense ones, like the anger and the fear and all those are very heavy, and you have to really kind of help it move through you.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
And maybe that is why there's this desire to move and move quickly and move hard.
Right.
Because it's the only way you can like
gotta
flick
get it out.
Off.
Almost like flicking it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Without actually seeing it, you're feeling it flicking it off of your body, and then when it's out there, it's just like,
it is. It's a
so
huge
freeing
release.
It is.
And the other piece is that I totally lost it.
Oh,
never mind.
Darn, I hate when it happens.
I was gonna say something, and then
maybe it'll come back.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, it's just it's a different way of expressing those emotions that I'm used to doing. It's such an intense level, but we have to allow ourselves to do that.
I think,
and it's okay if you do it. If something triggers you and you're feeling that, it's okay to let it out.
Yeah, I think there needs to be, as children we're traumatized, right? We feel fear, and the body's like, oh, it's okay. Yeah, I'll keep it right here. And then, but the agreement that we didn't realize we made is that, okay, one day I'll come back to you, fear, and I'll release you from the body when it's safe.
Right.
And so we need to now be adults and say, okay, it's safe. Let me go back and release all of these traumas in my body. And it will require feeling the emotion, but it's not going to be, it doesn't have to be ugly. It can be graceful. It can be a movement.
Right.
And it's just the awareness of that process. It's just another healing tool for me that I didn't even realize I needed.
Me neither. I didn't even know I could do it.
Right.
And then be okay with what it is, because we always want to attach something to it, like, oh, this is wrong, I shouldn't be feeling this, I shouldn't have this, it's not going to go away. And then just because in the moment sometimes I have a little bit of that fear that it's just not going to go away, and this is so intense, I can't, is it ever going to stop? And then it does, and then you're like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
It just needs to happen. Just allow it to happen. Allow your body to do what it needs to do to let it release.
Well, it's like what we were talking about before, just feeling into the pain, breathing into the pain, noticing it, and kind of going towards it. I've got a quick story. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Today's videos
they are been long today.
Yeah.
We just had a lot to talk about, I guess.
I thought it was beautiful. I was talking with a friend, and she has been touched uncharacteristically by people who have experienced trauma and sudden death. And so she has many friends, in her own life, her mother died suddenly. And then she's just had a lot of acquaintances and people who have had the same experience, sudden death, shocking trauma, like that. And so I was talking with her one day, and I asked her, like, what do you do? What do you do when you find out that someone, if it's just an acquaintance, and you find out that they've lost someone and there's some kind of tragedy? And she was like, I just always move towards it. And I was like, I love that answer.
Yeah.
She's like, we've learned to move towards it.
Wow.
Most people
because we always want to back away, and I don't want to look at that, I don't want to see that, it's too
I don't
scary.
know how to handle it, I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
And I think that's
a great tool.
That's such a metaphor for just so many things in our lives, of like pain, move towards it.
Yeah.
And then you just move through it.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
because it's eventually going to come back.
Exactly.
And it may not be exactly if you don't. That's what I meant to say. if you don't, and then sometimes it can be way more intense.
Yeah,
If you don't see it when you're
messier.
Exactly. Yes.
Messier too.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it can get ugly, but
yeah.
So yeah, I just think this is the same kind of situation. Is like if you're feeling this, just move into it, move towards it.
Yeah.
And then it moves through you.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Anyway, okay.
All right.
You guys take care.
Bye.
Bye.